This past week, from July 28th to August 2nd, the world's geopolitical map shifted again, sometimes in subtle ways, and sometimes with the kind of blunt force that leaves no room for misinterpretation. From economic tremors in the United States, to escalating tensions in Asia, to deadly border clashes in Southeast Asia, the week offered a stark reminder that power in 2025 is contested on every front: economic, military, and technological. Let's break it down. U.S. economic shock and tariff escalation. On August 1st, the United States delivered a 1-2 punch to the global economy. The first hit came in the form of alarming economic data. Job growth in July fell to just 73,000, less than half of what economists had predicted. The unemployment rate edged up to 4.2%, shaking investor confidence and putting the Federal Reserve in the political crosshairs. But the bigger shock came just hours later. President Donald Trump announced sweeping new tariffs, targeting trade partners across the globe: India, Canada, South Korea, Pakistan, and more. Tariff rates range from 10 to 39%, and for some countries, they'll climb as high as 50% if they don't strike new trade deals with Washington. The move sent shock waves through stock markets and currency exchanges, and it wasn't just about economics. It was a direct show of economic muscle. Trump accused the Federal Reserve of undermining U.S. competitiveness and demanded immediate interest rate cuts, framing the tariffs as part of a broader America First economic defense strategy. For many nations, the clock is now ticking because these tariffs take effect on August 7th. Europe under pressure across the Atlantic, European leaders tried to project unity, but their actions spoke volumes about the growing imbalance of power between Europe and the United States. Several governments pledged to increase defense spending and deepen economic cooperation with Washington, framing it as a necessary step in the face of growing global instability. But analysts note the uncomfortable reality. These moves aren't born of strategic confidence. They're born of pressure. Europe's energy dependence, its still recovering economy, and its reliance on U.S. military protection leave it vulnerable to Washington's demands. And with the U.S. now weaponizing tariffs against allies as well as rivals, Europe finds itself in a defensive posture, hoping to avoid becoming the next target. Energy and sanctions. Energy markets, meanwhile, have been rattled by a new U.S. sanctions threat, this one aimed at buyers of Russian crude oil. Oil prices jumped above $72 a barrel after Washington warned it would penalize any country purchasing oil above the G7 price cap. The implications are massive. If enforced, these sanctions could disrupt over 2 million barrels of daily supply, hitting China and India the hardest. Both nations have been major buyers of discounted Russian oil since the Ukraine war began, and both have so far resisted Western pressure to cut those imports. A serious disruption could not only raise global fuel prices, but also strain relationships between Washington and some of the world's fastest-growing economies. Border clashes in Southeast Asia. In Southeast Asia, the Cambodia-Thailand border erupted into deadly violence this week. Reports describe rocket strikes, landmines, and cross-border artillery fire, leaving at least 32 people dead and many more wounded. Both sides are trading accusations. Cambodia claims Thai forces violated their territory, while Thailand insists it was responding to repeated Cambodian provocations. The situation escalated so quickly that Thailand recalled its ambassador from Phnom Penh, a clear sign that diplomacy is failing. The clashes risk destabilizing a region already grappling with competing Chinese and U.S. influence, and both countries are key players in that ongoing struggle. Africa, peace and violence side by side. In Africa, this week brought both hope and tragedy. The Democratic Republic of the Congo signed a peace deal with rebels backed by Rwanda, a move that could end years of fighting in the country's east. But almost immediately after the agreement, Islamist militants carried out a massacre in the region, killing 43 civilians. It's a brutal reminder that peace on paper doesn't always translate to peace on the ground. The eastern DRC remains one of the most volatile regions in the world, where armed groups, foreign interference, and economic exploitation all collide. BRICS Strategy and global supply chains. On the other side of the globe, the BRICS bloc, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, took another step toward reshaping the global order. At a summit in Brazil, Member states agreed to a new AI governance framework and announced plans for coordinated investment in critical infrastructure. India will assume the BRICS chairmanship in 2026 and is expected to push hard on tech development and digital sovereignty. Meanwhile, the European Union is quietly moving to stockpile critical minerals, lithium, cobalt, rare earth elements, essential for electric vehicles and advanced manufacturing. The strategy is aimed at insulating the EU from future geopolitical shocks, especially as China continues to dominate the global supply chain for these materials. From trade wars to border wars, from sanctions to supply chains, this past week has shown that geopolitics in 2025 is a constant balancing act, where every move by one power forces a countermove from another. We'll keep watching, because in today's world, the headlines aren't just news. They're the opening moves in the next chapter of a rapidly changing global order. Stay informed on the world's shifting power. Subscribe to the Watchtower Report, where strategy meets reality.